Okay then, it's time for part 2 of our Rock's journey through 500 million years of the story of the Earth, from the time that the Earth was covered in volcanoes and our rock was part of the hot center of the Earth and came out through that volcano and this hot lava here and cooled and cracked and had ice and rain and tiny plants within it. Now we come to here, the next stage. In the middle of summer, in the middle of the night, an enormous slice of a cliff splits away from a mountainside and crashes down, shattering into fragments. Pieces of rock rumble and bounce down the mountain like a river of stone. Rain falls on the new jagged edges of the rock, and the hot sun heats it, and the frost cools it. The wind blows every day. Tiny specks of sand blow against the corners of the edges of the rock, nibbling at their sharpness. Slowly, slowly, the sharp edges begin to be smoothed. You can see there, the weather on Earth is always changing what the Earth looks like. Changing mountains, changing land, cliffs, rocks, all the time. It's slow, so we don't notice it in our lifetimes, but over the long story of Earth's life, it's changed a lot. Everything on the surface of the Earth is slowly being eroded and broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. Boulders, that's a huge rock, powder into streaks of mud. Cliffs crumble into grains of sand. The tops of mountains disintegrate into pebbles. It has always happened. It is always going to happen. It will always happen. It is happening now. All that is needed is time and the weather. So even the mountains that we see today, they will one day all be gone and new mountains will come in their place. And now we see land animals, worm-like creatures, burrow in moss jungles, and millipedes, look how many legs it's got, shelter under the rock. It is 390 million years ago. So we've got the first kinds of animals walking across the land, including we see here this fish, a fish that can walk about on the land a little bit and breathe out of the water. The rain pours down, loosening the earth. Mud and rocks slide off the mountainside into a river. The river rushes along, dragging silt, sand, gravel, boulders, stripping away the mountain's surface layer by layer. The river tumbles and rolls the rock, chipping edges, smoothing corners, rubbing it against other rocks. Gradually, the rock becomes rounder, smaller. The river widens, flowing brown and slow. There's our pebble in there somewhere, being pushed along by the river. The current of the river nudges the rock past forests of ferns where spiders hide. There are now spiders. It eases the rock through swamps where fish haul themselves out of the water and breathe the air. The rock travels for thousands and thousands of years. When it reaches the sea, it is a smooth, round, brown pebble. It is 375 million years ago. So it's gone from being lava to being mountain to being a boulder to being smashed and smoothed into a pebble after all this time. Boulders and rocks embedded deep in the soil of the mountain look like permanent residents, but they aren't. That means these rocks aren't going to stay there forever. They're just passing through like everything else, all on the way to the bottom of the sea. So our pebble might be about to join the other rocks again, instead of being a pebble on its own. The river drops the pebble onto a beach filled with other pebbles. The waves of the sea wash them backwards and forwards, grinding them up and grinding them down, rattling and clinking the pebbles together. Stripy pebbles, spotted pebbles, grey, brown and white pebbles. Each pebble has come from its own special rock. Each was made in its own time and place. Shiny grains of sand settle between the pebbles. The sand fills the spaces like the mixture between pieces of fruit in a pudding. Slowly, the sea starts to flood the land. The sea covers the pebbles packed in their grains of sand. Gradually, the sand hardens and forms a new layer of rock, a conglomerate pudding stone rock. So we've got new rock here made out of all these smashed bits of rock and the sand, like a big sort of rock pudding. The sea covers the cliffs and drowns the mouth of the river and washes into the forests. It is 340 million years ago. Then creatures swarm and slither in the warm sea. The tiny bodies of dead sea creatures drift down to the seabed, layer upon layer. So our rock, our little girl's pebble, is now, it's part of the land underneath the sea again. Fine mud drifts down and sand. As each layer presses down, the layers slowly beneath harden and the particles cement together to form more rock, layers of sedimentary rock under the sea. So all these layers of sand and the bodies of sea creatures that have died are all being packed at the bottom, and it will slowly become new rock. So our rock has been on a journey from molten rock under the volcano into being part of a mountain, into being a huge rock called a boulder, into being a pebble, into being sand and mud, and now it's being squashed slowly to become rock again underneath the new layers of sand on top of it. And here, the surface of the earth begins to rise, lifting the layers of rock to make new land above the water. Club moss trees crowd in dank swamps, and giant amphibians hunt among the rotting wood and the buzzing insects. Oh, look at this huge dragonfly. We'll see a dragonfly again soon in tomorrow's poetry lesson. But the pebble is still buried deep under the ground beneath layers of sandstone and mudstone and limestone. It is 300 million years ago. 300 million years? That means our pebble is soon going to be emerging again from the ground, and we're about to meet some new creatures, the dinosaurs, and we'll see those guys tomorrow. Alright then, actually we'll see them next week in part 3 of this. So we've got all the way from 500 million years ago up to the dinosaur age. Okay, I hope you're ready to start lesson 4, where we're trying to tell the story of the pebble from the beginning up until now. And you can watch this video as many times as you like and read the pages yourselves, which I've typed in there for you, to remember how that story goes. We're summarizing it, breaking it into the shortest and most important parts. All right then, ask me for any help and I'll see you later. Goodbye.